right. Okay, so we are on the top of Kuf Daled 124, and I will just remind everybody very quickly that approximately a month from now, we will be finishing up Gemara Shabbos and starting Eruvin. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so there we are. Right? And the Eruvin, if I remember correctly from the last, was not an easy Gemara.
Oh, a lot of drawing.
It's only good for engineers, Ted.
Aha, okay.
You know that.
I used to be one.
Listen, once you have a title or a field, they never let you forget it, right?
That's it.
Got a call from a member yesterday that they called me for counseling. So that's what happens. Okay, let's jump in a moment by reminding everybody that we're dealing with these kinds of utensils as to whether they can be handled on Shabbat because of the question of muktzah, of being set aside. Okay? So let's take one example, and that will help us, I think, clarify. If you had in olden times let's say a door bolt that you would put in, and of course the example we have is one end is thicker than the other, but sometimes that bolt was attached to the door. Other times it could be removable, okay, like in those old movies where they would have to lift the bolt and put it aside, things like that. So that is what the Gemara morning is hinting at. So we're going to pick up about 4 or 5 lines down from the top. Okay. Rabbi Tarfon Omer Harehu Kechol HaKelim Umetaltel. So Rabbi Tarfon disagreed with Rabbi Yehoshua, okay, in that what was the status of this kind of door bolt, okay, in this situation, right? So he says, he indicated, right, Kechol HaKelim Umetaltel B'chatzar Meducha Hu Da'amra. Okay, and therefore Rabbi Tarfon is saying it may be moved about anywhere in the courtyard. Okay, so now the Gemara comes back and says to us, Meducha ha da'amran, when we brought back that case, Abaye, remember, had challenged Rava by saying it would imply that only when you had the garlic in the mortar could you move it, okay? Otherwise, you shouldn't be able to move it, which would imply that it's a utensil that can't be moved on Shabbat. So we now come back to that example. Amar Rava, says Rava Mimai, on what basis? Okay, do you say that? Okay. Dilma le'olam emalach. Perhaps I could say to you, Lachar hatarat kelim nishnu, that this was only an issue after they had permitted the use of the more flexible approach of moving, the permission to move utensils. Excuse me. Okay. So that was the point that Rava is saying. Kanim, in other words, those rods that were used for showbread, ta'amamai, what was the reason, perhaps, that they had forbidden them initially? Okay, mishum iafushe, because they would cause the bread to mold or to decay. Bahai porta lo mi'afesh. he argues. But in that small amount of space, or the small amount of time, it would not, okay, short amount of time, it would not produce, okay, shouldn't cause any kind of mold on the bread. Okay, maklot, in terms of the poles, we said was an example in the Breita that they used on Pesach to put the sacrifice on for flaying. Efshar Rabbi Elazar. Maybe they hold like the view of Rabbi Elazar. And then further, glustera, these door bolts with one end thicker than another, Rabbi Yanai, the view of Rabbi Yanai. The Amar Rabbi Yanai, says Rabbi Yanai, B'chatzar she'ena me'urevet askina. There we were talking about using a bolt in a shared courtyard, but there had been no attempt to make a joint and eruv arrangement, eruv, okay, in that situation. Okay, and so therefore, if that's the case, right, each section of the courtyard belongs to its own owner and not jointly shared. Rabbi Yoshua Savar Tocha Petach Kilifnim Dami. Okay, Rabbi Joshua held that inside the door frame, let's call it, okay, is like inside the house, okay, which would imply that it could be carried inside in that case, that the courtyard then was like inside. Ukamataltel mana, all right, debatim b'chatzer. And therefore he says that you could carry the utensil just as you would carry a utensil in the house throughout the courtyard. Rabbi Tarfon Savar Tocha Petach Kilachutz Dami. And Rabbi Tarfon held that the door frame was more like the outside, okay? And therefore one couldn't carry, okay, into the courtyard that doesn't have an eruv. Okay? Kilachutz mana techatzer. B'chatzer kama taltel. Okay, that therefore you could carry inside the courtyard. Okay, there you could carry, but otherwise from the house into the courtyard, no. Okay. Now, Meducha, Rabbi Nechemyahi. And therefore we come to the conclusion that in regards to the mortar in that example, that follows the status, the position of Rabbi Nechemya. Okay, and Rabbi Nechemya says, remember that a utensil cannot be moved unless it's for its normal purpose. Okay. Okay. We come up now to a new Mishnah. Kol hakelim nitalin letzorach v'shelo letzorach. Okay. Here we have this Mishnah, which now probably was originally part of the earlier Mishnah, because here we're going to specifically spell out Rabbi Nechemya's position. Okay, so Tanakama says that all of the utensils can be handled, whether they're needed or not, whether required or not. Rabbi Nechemya Omer, Ein Nitalin Ela Letzorach, that they can only be handled if they are needed. And remember, elsewhere he said, only for their original or their normal purpose. Okay. Now, Gemara, Mai Letzorach, asks the Gemara, Umai Shelo Letzorach. What do we mean when we say that it's needed or required? And what do we mean when we say that it's not needed? Okay, and not for its original purpose. Amar Rabba, letzorach davar shemalachto leheter. Rabba is saying that we're talking about the need of this object for a permissible kind of work on Shabbat. Letzorach gufo, okay, that's for its own purpose. Okay. Shelo letzorach, when we say that it's not required or not needed, davar shemalachto leheter, that is an object that's work on Shabbat is permitted. Letzorach mekomo, that would be simply moving it because of need of the space. V'davar shemalachto leisur, okay, and something, an object where the work with that object is prohibited on Shabbat, letzorach gufo, in, okay, for its own normal purpose, yes. Letzorach mekomo, lo, but for simply moving it to need the space, the answer would be no. Now, va'ata Rabbi Nechemia, the Mema, and Rabbi Nechemia came to say, va'afilu davar shemalachto leheter, even an item, a utensil, that's normal use, would be permitted on Shabbat, letzorach gufo ein, for its own purposes, its own needs, yes, letzorach mekomo lo, but for the need of simply moving it to have the space, for need of the space, no. Amar le Rabba, Rabba says to him, letzorach mekomo, shelo letzorach karet le. Okay, you're saying in regards to the need for the space, right, that's, you're going to call that it's not necessary, that's not required. Ela amar Rabba, but rather Rabba says as follows: letzorach davar shemalachto leheter, for the need of an object, right, the requirement of the object whose normal work is permitted on Shabbat, bein letzorach gufo, bein letzorach makomo, whether it needs it for its own kind of work, or simply needs it for the space, shelo letzorach, and not for its purpose, va'afilu mechama letzeo. That refers to moving it simply from sun to shade, in other words, to move it so that it doesn't get ruined, let's say, or v'davar shemalachto leisur, and in regards to an object that, whose work is forbidden on Shabbat, letzorach gufo uletzorach mekomo en, for its own needs, in other words, its general kind of use, and for the need of that place, yes. Mechama letzeil, lo, and from the moving it from sun to shade, no. Va'ata Rabbi Nechemia lamema, and so Rabbi Nechemia comes back and responds again. Va'afilu davar shemalachto leheter, and even an object whose normal work would be permitted on Shabbat, letzorach gufo letzorach makomo ein, for its own general use, okay, and its own, and it's the need of its place, yes. Mechama letzeh lo, but from the sun, moving it from the sun to the shade, no. Now, what happens? Yativ Rav Safra v'Rav Acha bar Huna, Rav Huna bar Chanina. Okay, so three of the sages then are sitting and discussing. V'yadfei v'ka'amrei l'Rabba. And they are discussing this in terms of before Rabbah. Aliba de Rabbi Nechemia. According then to the view of Rabbi Nechemia, Hani ke'arot, okay, hechi metaltalina. If we have these empty bowls, Okay. On what basis can we handle them? Amar laho, he said to them, Rav Safra, Mide dehava agraf shalra'i, that we can handle them the same way we apply the status of a chamber pot. In other words, we're permitted to remove a chamber pot because it's mi'us, it's despicable, it's disgusting. So therefore, that's the basis he gives them to permit to remove empty bowls without any foodstuffs in it. Amar le Abai le Rabba. And Abai then says to Rabba, Lamar aliba de Rabbi Nehemiah. Okay? Is it the master hold like the view of Rabbi Nehemiah? Hani karot, hechi metaltalinin laho. If that's the case, these bowls, empty bowls, how is it possible to handle them if you hold like Rabbi Nehemiah? Amar le Rav Safra. Okay, he says Rav Safra to him. Chavrin tirgama mide dehava agraf sholai. Says my colleagues explained it to me as it was similar, so to speak, to the chamber pot. Etive Abai l'Rabba. And so Abai now challenges Rava with a braita. Meducha. Okay, again, this mortar. Im yesh ba shum metaltalin ota. If this has the, we said garlic in it, one can handle it, said a braita. Ve'im lav, and if not, ein metaltalin ota. It says we can't handle it, implying that the empty mortar could not be handled on Shabbat. Hacha b'mai yaskinen. What are we talking about? Says Rava as an answer. Michama letzail. That was an issue when they wanted to move it from the sun to onto the shade. Didn't want something to happen to it. Etive. Abai challenges again. V'shavin she'im kitzav alav basar. But they all agree that if one were to cut up a piece of meat using the pestle of the mortar, right? She'asur letaltalo, that it's forbidden to handle it. Hachanami mechama letzeil. Rava's answer here too. They're talking about moving it from the sun to the shade. V'haditznan. But here, says the Gemara, it teaches elsewhere in a Mishnah, Ein somchin et kadera b'bakaot. Okay, that we don't rely on the fact that these bowls are made from pieces of wood, chen bedelet, and likewise, okay, as anything connected with the door. Okay, so the implication being there that, okay, so is it really considered a utensil or not? V'habikat dibiom tov davar shemlachto leheter. And don't we indicate that these pieces of wood on Yom Tov, their role, their job, is permissible? Alma davar shemlachto leheter. This would seem to imply, therefore, that something, an object that's normal use is permitted, bein litzorach gufo, bein litzorach makomo, whether for its own purpose or whether needing the space, asur is forbidden. So the Gemara asks, hatam ma'itama. There in that case, what's the reasoning? Kevan de b'Shabbat, davar shemalachto le'isur, ugzera yom tov atu Shabbat. So Rava's answer is there. That's a unique situation, okay? Because in a case where on Shabbat, the utensil would not be permitted. Its usual use is not permitted. Rabbis made a decree that you don't use it on Yom Tov, lest you think you can use it on Shabbat. Okay. So the Gemara then continues and says, "V'chi tema Shabbat gufei tishtari." Are you going to simply imply or say, therefore, that for Shabbat itself it would be permitted? Daha davar shemlachto leisur letzorach gufo letzorach makomo shari. Why? Because there, on Shabbat, we normally say, and that an object, a utensil, that's normal use is prohibited on Shabbat for its general use or for needing its place, it's permitted to handle it. Hani mili hechad deika torat kliala. But here we're saying that that only is true if we apply the idea that this is considered a valid utensil. Hecha deleka torat kliala. But where we don't consider it in the category of a valid utensil, no, it's not the case. Umi gazrina. And so the question therefore asked is, did the rabbis really make such a decree? V'hatnan. And aren't we taught elsewhere in the Mishnah? Mishilin perot derech aruba biyom tov. That it's permissible to lower produce from a roof into the inside of the house by means of the skylight, and do so on Yom Tov. Aval lo b'Shabbat, and not on Shabbat. Umi lo gazrinin, and we don't make a decree prohibiting that kind of activity. V'hatnan. But isn't it also taught in another Mishnah? Ein ben Yom Tov l'Shabbat, ela ochel nefesh bilvad. That there is really no difference between Yom Tov and Shabbat except for the preparation of food, which would seem to imply, therefore, that they shouldn't be allowed to lower the items, okay, from the roof to inside the house, because they could be different rishuyot. Amar Rav Yosef lo kasha. Rav Yosef said this isn't really a problematic, namely here where it's prohibited, Rabbi Eliezer. That's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Here where it's permitted, Rabbi Yehoshua. That's the view of Rabbi Yehoshua. Tanya, as we're taught elsewhere in a Braita, Oto ve'et beno, that if an animal and its progeny, shenaflu labor, fell into a pit, right, on Shabbat, Rabbi Eliezer omer ma'aleh et harishon al manat l'shochto. Rabbi Eliezer holds that it's permissible to raise the first animal on the condition that you're going to slaughter it for food. Okay? No, or Yom Tov, actually, not Shabbat. V'shochto, he would slaughter it. V'hasheni oselo parnasa b'mkomo b'shvil shelo yamut. And in the second animal, he would basically set a price for it, let's say, so that somebody else could buy it, and therefore he would not lose out with the death of the animal. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, says Rabbi Yoshua Omer, ma'aleh et harishon al manat l'shochto, that one may raise up the animal, first animal, on the condition that you're considering slaughtering it. Ve'eno shochto, but he doesn't slaughter it. Uma'arim, and he uses trickery. Uma'alet hasheni, and then he raises the second one. Ratzah zeh shochet, ratzah zeh shochet, and he can choose if he wants this one slaughter it. If he wants this one, slaughter it. Okay. Mimai, what basis? Dilma ad kan, lo ka'amar Rabbi Eliezer hatam. Perhaps we might argue in that kind of a situation that Rabbi Eliezer didn't answer the way he did there. Ela de'efshar leparnasah, because it's only a situation where the person could gain some financial benefit from it. But where it's not permitted, or there's no possibility of gaining financial benefit or not losing out financially, he wouldn't go along with it. Inami, or perhaps, ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Yehoshua hatam. We might say that maybe Rabbi Yehoshua didn't give his answer there in such a way, right? Dafshar b'ha'arama, because in that situation, he allows for trickery. Aval hecha delo efshar b'ha'arama, but where it's not permitted to do any kind of trickery, no, that's not the case. Ela amar Rav Papa, but rather Rav Papa says, lo kasha, there's no real problem here. Ha Beit Shammai, one is the view of Beit Shammai. Ha Beit Hillel, one is the view of Beit Hillel. Ditznan Beit Shammai, as they say in Beit Shammai, the following: Ein motzein et hakatan ve'et halulav ve'et sefer haTorah l'reshut harabi. Okay? But they say one cannot carry a child or a lulav or a Torah scroll out into the street on festivals. Only preparation of food is permitted. Okay? Beit Hillel matirin, and Beit Hillel permits it. Amar, I would therefore say, the shamat laho lebeit Shammai. Okay? But perhaps he says, okay, only Beit Shammai ruled in this situation. Hotza'ah, in regards to carrying out. Okay? Tiltu mishamat laho, but simply handling the item itself. Did you learn that was the case? But tiltu gufe lav mishum hatza'ahi. So the Gemara asks, but don't we say that handling itself is almost like a subcategory of carrying? Va'af Rav Savar La, and even Rav held this view, all right? Laha de Rabba, to the same view of Rabba. The Amar Rav, as Rav said, Mar Shalo Iganev, okay? That Rav said as follows, okay? That a hoe, in order that it not be stolen, okay? What happens? Zehu tiltu shelo letzorach va'asur. That is carrying, handling, not for its purpose, and therefore forbidden. Tama shelo yiganev, and the reason being that lest it be stolen. Aval letzorach gufo, but for its own purpose, uletzorach mekomo, or for the purpose of needing the space, mutar, then it would be permitted. Aini, is that really the case? Asks the Gemara. V'harav kahana, iklala be Rav. But there was a situation where Rav Kahana visited Rav's home. Va'amar, and he said, Aitu le shota. He said, bring him one translation suggests it's a kind of netting, like a hammock, okay? And others say it's a piece of wood or something else, right? Lekahana, letevaleha, so he could sit on it, right? Lav lamemra, the davar shemlachto leiso, Okay, so taking the example of, let's say, the net, or which was used also as traps, isn't this a situation where we might say that here is an object that's normal use in Shabbat is prohibited, letzorech gufo, but we need it for another similar purpose, and yes, letzorech mekomo, lo, but for needing it for its place, no. Haki amar lo. This is what he said to him. Shekulu shota mekame kahana. This is what he said to him. Okay? Remove this net, remove this log from before kahana. Ve'ibayat ema. And if you want, I would say, hatam michama letzeil hava. There, maybe that was a situation where it was concerned about moving it from the sun to the shade. Now, another story, okay, which highlights this issue. Rav Mari bar Rachel, Rav Mari bar Rachel, okay, owned, okay, Havale Hahi Be Sidyuyata Beshamsha. He had some pillows that were lying in the sun. Okay. Atalakame de Rava. He came before Rava. Amarle, and he said to him, Mahula tiltalunihu. What about, can I handle them? Can I move them? Amarle, he said to him, Shari, it's permitted. Itli achrina. So he responds, Rav Mari responds, but I have others. Chazula orchin. You could move it because who knows, you might need it for guests. Idle nami laorchin. I have others also for guests, he responds. Amarle, he said to him, Galit ada'atayich, the kiraba savirala. You've revealed, according to your responses, your line of thinking, that you hold like Rabbah. And since he holds like the view of Rabbah, okay, that it would not be appropriate to move it from sun to shade, he has to give him a different answer. Lakuli alma shari. For general purposes, other general people, it would be permitted to move it. Ledidach asir. But for you, it would be forbidden. Now, Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Ashi, Amar Rav. Another example. Okay. Michbadot. We have brooms. Okay. Shel milta. And the brooms are made from cloth, let's say, the wool. Okay. These weren't brooms necessarily to do the floor, but they were brooms. Think of the kind of brushes that they used to use on clothes. Okay. Mutar l'taltalan b'Shabbat. It's permitted to handle them on Shabbat. Aval shel tamra, but a broom made out of palm branches, which normally is the broom that one would sweep the floor with. Lo, not. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, af shel tamra. Rabbi Eliezer says, also you could use those made of palm fronds, right? B'mai yaskinin, what are we talking about? Ilema letzorach gufo, uletzorach mekomo. If you're saying that we're needing it for its own general purposes or for it needing the space, baha lema, Rav shel tamara lo. In this case, let Rav say that in terms of broom made from palm fronds, well, no. Why is he saying no? Baha Rav ke Rav savirale. But here we see that Rav must hold similar to the view of Rabbah. Ele mechama letzeil. but rather they must have been talking a situation, moving it from sun to shade. Aha, Lema Rabbi Eliezer, Avshel Tamra. If that's the case, then let Rabbi Eliezer say, even in a situation of brooms made with palm. So the Gemara tells us, Le'olam mechama letzeil ema. I would always say this was a situation of moving something from the sun to the shade. V'chein amar Rabbi Eliezer. And this is what Rabbi Eliezer's ruling was in regards to. Right? That the ruling would be like Rab, okay, in that case. Okay. So moving object for its general purpose, for a space, the needing of its space would be permitted, okay, simply moving it from sun to shade so it wouldn't get, so to speak, ruined, that's not the case. Okay, Matnitin, a new Mishnah. Kol HaKelim HaNitalin B'Shabbat, all the utensils, okay, that can be handled on Shabbat, Shivrehen Nitalin Imahem. Their broken pieces, their fragments can be handled along with them. Ubilvad Shehiyu Osin Me'ein Melacha. But so long as these fragments can be utilized for some kind of work. Shivrei Areva, okay? So for example, pieces of a large bowl, like a large mixing bowl, for example. L'chasod bohen et pi hachavit. That could be used to cover the mouth of a barrel. Shivrei zechuchit, fragments of glass, for example. L'chasod bohen et pi hapach. That could be used to cover the top of a flask. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Bilvad shehiyu osin me'ein melachtan. Rabbi Yehuda is more stringent, and he says that's only so long as they can use or perform a task that was in the nature, in the variety of what their normal work is. Shivrei Areva, okay, so pieces, fragments of a large mixing bowl, for example, Latsuk Letochan Makva, in order to pour soup or porridge into it. The shells chuchit and fragments of glass, Latsuk Letochan Shaman, in order to pour oil into it. Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel says as follows: Machloket shenishbaru me'erev Shabbat. This argument implies that this item got broken before Shabbat started, erev Shabbat. Demar savar me'ein melachtan ein me'ein melacha acheret lo. Because one master holds, if it's similar to its original kind of work, yes. Okay, if it's for another kind of work, no. Umar and the other namely the rabbis, savar afilu me'ein melacha acheret, and they hold that even if it's viable for some other kind of work. Aval nishbaru b'Shabbat, but if the item got broken on Shabbat, divrei hakol mutarin, everybody's in agreement that it's permitted. Ho'il umuchanin al gabe avihen mutar, since it was permitted initially based on what its origin was, therefore it's permitted. In other words, it was originally a permitted utensil. It got broken on Shabbos. Its fragments should still be permitted. Motiv Rav Zutrai. This is challenged by a Braita by Rav Zutrai. Misikin b'kelim, ve'ein misikin b'shivrei kelim. It says we can kindle a fire using utensils, but we cannot kindle using fragments of utensils. Dinishbaru emat, that broken when? Ilema dinishbaru me erev Yom Tov, if we say that they got broken on the eve of Yom Tov, eitzim ba'alman inhum, that in a sense they're really no different than any kind of firewood. Ela lav b'Yom Tov. No, it must be that it occurred on Yom Tov. Uktani, and the Braita teaches, Mesikin b'kelim ve'ein mesikin b'shivrei kelim, that we can kindle with using whole utensils, but not with fragments of utensils. Ela I itmar hachi itmar. But if it was said, this was how it was said. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. It says Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, Machloket shenishbaru b'Shabbat. The argument was when the utensil got broken on Shabbat. Demar savar muchanhu, that one master holds that it was prepared. In other words, it was available. It was still going to be usable. Umar savar noladhu, and the other master holds that it was, in a sense, created on that occasion on Shabbat and therefore not permitted. Aval me'erev Shabbat, but from the eve of Shabbat, divrei hakol mutarim, everybody agrees that it's permitted. Ho'il v'huchanu lemlacha mi ba'od yom, since we say that it was prepared for whatever work before the holiday or the Shabbat started. Now, Tani Chada, Mesikin b'kelim ve'ein mesikin b'shivrei kelim. A Tana taught, one Tana taught, or one Braita teaches, that we may kindle with utensils, whole utensils, but we cannot kindle with fragments of utensils. Vatanya Idach. And now we have another Braita, okay, that teaches, Kashem shemesikin b'kelim, kach mesikin b'shivrei kelim. The same way we can kindle with whole utensils, we can kindle with fragments of utensils. Vatanya Idach. And now we have a third Braita. Ein mesikin, lo b'kelim v'lo b'shivrei kelim. We are not permitted to kindle neither with whole utensils nor with fragments of utensils. The Gemara answers, in the first case, Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? That's the example of Rabbi Yehuda that differentiates between whole and broken. In the second case, Rabbi Shimon. Okay? Right? And in the third case, Rabbi Nehemiah. Okay? That neither, okay, both are permitted in the second case, neither permitted in the third case. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Hani Livni, a new example. These bricks, let's say, the Ishtuyer mi binyana, that are left over from a building. Shari latiltalun niu, it's permitted to handle them. Nechazu lamizka alayhu, because they're suitable for somebody to recline on it or to sit on it. Sharginhu, but if we stack them up, vadai aktsinhu, then they are clearly set aside. Okay, they've been put for specific use, and therefore they're muktzah. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, he says, Chares ketana mutar letaltel b'chatzer, a small piece of earthenware, it's permitted to carry into the courtyard. Aval b'karmelit, lo, but into a karmelit, no. Rav Nachman, didei Amar, and Rav Nachman himself said, afilu b'karmelit, even into a karmelit. Aval b'reshut harabim, lo, but not in a public domain. The Rava Amar, and Rava says, Afilu b'reshut harabim, even in a public domain. Va'azda Rabba l'talmei, and Rabba followed his own views. The Rabba hava ka'azil b'ritka d'mechoza, because one time Rabba was going to the marketplace in Mechoza. At vasai misane tina, and he soiled his shoes with mud or with some sort of plaster. At shame, along came his servant, shakal chaspa v'kam mechaper le. He took a fragment of earthenware and he scraped it off his shoes. Ramu be Rabbanan Kala. And the rabbis raised their voice against him. In other words, they challenged him. Amar lo mistaya de lo gamira migmar. Okay. He said it's not sufficient that they did not learn it. Okay. Nami migmare. Even if they had learned it. Elu b'chatzer have mi lo have chazia l'kisui be mana. If it had been in a courtyard, wouldn't it have been suitable for some sort of covering, using the utensil as a covering? Hachanami chazia l'didi. Here too, it's suitable for me to use. Amar Rav Yehuda, we'll finish up in a minute. Says Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Says Shmuel. Okay. Mi gufit chavit shenichtata. Okay. The lid of a barrel that gets shattered. Mutar letaltel b'Shabbat. Okay. It's permitted to carry on Shabbat. Tanya nami hachi. And here we also have a braita that teaches, migufa shenichtata, this lid that becomes shattered, he b'shivareha mutar l'taltala b'Shabbat. So this is kind of like a clay seal that's on the lid, okay? That if it breaks, okay, one can carry it and its pieces on Shabbat. V'lo yisfot mimena shever, but he can't repair, okay, that this fragment in order lechasod ba'et hakli, in order to cover the utensil. U'lesmoch ba kar'ei hamita, nor can he use those fragments to support the legs of a bed. V'im zarka ba'ashpa, and if it was thrown into the refuse, it's forbidden. Mat kifla Rav Papa. Rav Papa challenged this, and he says, Elame'ata. From here, it would seem that we would learn, Zarik le leglime, that if one were to throw a cloak or a coat or something, okay, into refuse, hachanami da asur. Here too would we say it's forbidden, okay? Ela amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa as follows, im zarkami ba'od yom la'ashpa, if he threw it while it was still day, asura, it is forbidden. Okay? And we'll stop right there. Okay? Everybody have a good day and stay well. Right?
Thank you very much, Rabbi. You too. Be well.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. Take care.
Have a good day. Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.